when did the GDPR discussion start? Like 6 years ago? When did it really start? When they said that it would come? It's 6 years or 10 years? When was that?
Not that long. No, I think kind of really when everyone realized, oh my God, I need to do something. I need at least look into that and consider whether I need to do anything. That started 1 year before the GDPR really entered into force.
Right.
So 2017, I guess, was the hot phase. Where everyone really was preparing, and then the GDPR entered into force May 2018. So it's now a while. We got used to that.
It's 3 years. It's really 3 years. It's been, I remember back then when everybody was afraid. Oh, what do we do? Who should we delete from our list? What are we going to do? What's going to happen? Who's gonna look into that? I mean, if we look at I have this great link where you see all the penalties which have to be paid. I love
the
that
enforcement
one.
tracker. That can be scary.
It's scary, but on the other hand, it's not that scary. I would say it's if you look at it, it's not been like thousands of companies all over Europe. It's not a lot, I would say. Or what did you say?
Yeah, no, I mean most of the authorities, they really try to be reasonable. In some cases, it's if you kind of read through the details and the background, it's just obvious, right? Therefore it's good. And I mean, GDPR really kind of kicked off that, and that was the intent, that better or more detailed data protection awareness. And it's really amazing how fast even the US come up with their own, at least local data protection laws, which before that would have been absolutely no-go. So GDPR really had its success, in my view. And it's driving now lots of initiatives around the world. Data protection laws are being enacted. It's probably a good thing. I mean, sometimes it's definitely too much. If you see all these cookie banners when you're just surfing online and you're just annoyed, oh my God, another one. I don't really care whether they collect anything on my data. But it has lots of advantages.
So welcome, audience. We'll wait another 4 minutes until we really hit it off so everybody can join. I see that people are coming in right now. Very, very nice. The enforcement is one thing. I mean, for us at GlobalDots, we have this discussion with our customers all the time, and especially you working for an American company, it's probably different anyway, because people will always ask, is any data going to the US? I mean, this is the first question we get also. How's the legislation in Asia? Does that mean is there data protection coming up as well as the same as in Europe and the US?
Yes, definitely. They had even before. I mean, Europe for sure was always the first caring about data protection, but Asia, lots of Asian countries, they have since ages data protection law in place. Maybe not that strict and forced as they might have done it. But definitely the laws are in place, and also that data protection awareness that's swapping to Asia right now. And lots of these old laws, they are updated. The authorities are staffed up, and the enforcement is really something which is a high priority even in Asian countries. So it's really a global data protection awareness wave, I'd say.
Yeah. Thanks. So welcome, everybody. We'll wait another 2 minutes for everybody to join the webinar, and then we'll hit it off. Eduardo, when was your first time you got associated with GDPR? When were the questions coming up on the security level?
Well, I have to start to say that I'm really happy we're doing this webinar. This is a very important topic. I also, many times as an European, I feel very protected by our authorities in the sense that I know I give a lot of my data away in websites and a lot of PII data. it makes me happy or somewhat relaxed knowing that the authorities here in Europe are really making a fist in the table in the sense that this data has to be protected. I always say that when I give that data away to a company, it's kind of a token of trust. And if that token is kind of broken, there's obviously a reputation impact to that company, which is obviously bringing a series of impacts business-wise, revenue-wise, and so on. Obviously, the first call to attention was the Ticketmaster vulnerability and finding, and then also British Airways. Obviously, after that, a lot of people started to have a look into their own websites, and through the number of POCs that I've been doing together with Akamai, the results have been quite fascinating, because it's eye-opening to see the amount of things we have running in the website and what they can do, and sometimes how easy it can be to lose control over that. Luckily, in a way, we have tools now that help us doing that, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So yes, it's a very important topic, absolutely.
Thank you. So Anna and Eduardo will hit it off right away. I'll just say a little words how we're going to do it. We'll do a presentation which will last 30-35 minutes, something like that, maybe a little bit longer, and then we'll do Q&A. So if anybody from the audience has questions, please put them in the Q&A section or in the chat, and I'll ask them afterwards. What we will do, I will hand over the presentation to Anna right now, and we'll start it. And I think this is, I said that, in the end of last year, GDPR, privacy, client-side security is one of the biggest topics we're all facing because of the regulations which is out there. And I'm very happy to have the best expert I know in here, which is Anna. And I'm very happy to have her on the webinar. So I'm handing over to you, Anna. Please go ahead and do the presentation.
Thanks, Thorsten. Thanks for the nice introduction. So yeah, welcome everyone. I'm happy to talk about privacy by design. And you should see my screen right now. If it starts to go into presentation mode, here we go. So privacy by design, and what we would like to focus on, Eduardo and me today, is really why DPOs and security officers should collaborate, why privacy and security nowadays are a must, and make you a bit more aware why security is not just a standalone matter and important task you need to have taken care of, but why it also kicks into privacy and can put your privacy compliant at risk. So coming to the problem statement, the question really is, why does security matters? Why does it matters in regards of privacy? Why does it matter in regards of your website? You probably have your cookie banner up and running, and you collect consent where it is required when you're using cookies. You hopefully may also have some general security measures to really protect your website, to ensure it's running, that it cannot be attacked, that it cannot be hacked. You might have some DDoS protection, some web application firewall rules running, and thereby trying to really appropriately secure your websites. And when you are processing or collecting personal data via your website and processing it, that might be via a newsletter people or end users, your clients can register for. It may be via a form they fill out to download some information you make available via a website. It may be some logins they need to perform to access their customer accounts. If you collect the personal data of your clients, then you're processing reasonably personal data, and then you need to protect that data. So all these website protections against certain types of attacks, they are not just critical to keep your website up and running, but also to protect that personal data you're collecting. And as I said, the typical known threats like DDoS, like SQL injection, and you have that little graph at the bottom of that page. That red line is SQL injection. Then you have different other types of data like command injection, cross-site scripting. Whatever it is, you probably have protection against that. But nowadays, more and more important, and Eduardo would talk about the technical details, really become script injections, whether that's first party or third party injections. And that is something we would like to talk about today and how you can protect not only your website, but also your personal data against these script injections and script hijacking, abuse of data by skimming your scripts, and how you just ensure your compliance, not just the security compliance, but also your privacy compliance with that. And the question you might ask yourself is, why does it matter? Your customer data, the data you collect from your clients, definitely are your crown jewels. So you need to protect them. That's the only way you can really ensure that the customer trusts in you, that they are willing to use your services, your offerings, your products, whatever you offer online, that they are coming to your websites. So the importance of customer data cannot be underestimated. And for sure, there are all these bad actors outside there who are nowadays, as I said before, not only trying to attack your websites, but who are especially trying to take control over the scripts on your websites. And that is a nearly new, at least nowadays, very important security risk you need to be aware of. And then for sure, in addition to that, there comes compliance risk. And that is something why we think that data protection officers and security officers should work together. Because that security risk, if you process personal data and if you do not protect your data against these known risks, then you have a compliance issue, because in GDPR and also in any other law, whether it's any US law, Asian law, we've talked about that in the beginning, that more and more Asian countries are also updating their privacy laws and now are enforcing it pretty strictly. All these laws, they require that you protect certain data state of the art. And if you do not do that because you do not protect it against known vulnerabilities, known attack vectors, then you definitely also have a compliant risk. So that is what we are talking about here today. And if you take a look at what's really on your website, if you analyze that a bit, it's maybe scaring that really 2/3 of all the scripts on your page are not your own page, but in most of the cases are third-party scripts. So it's really 67% third-party requests accessing your website. Some of them you may be aware, hopefully, most of them, but there are probably some you're not aware. And when that's first-party script, you can easily control them because they are known to you. If they're third-party scripts, then it becomes pretty complex to really control them. But because of GDPR, because of other laws, nevertheless, you need to provide state-of-the-art security, which includes these scripts, which means you need to control them. And on top of these third-party scripts, also what we found is that 80% of the pages they still contain known vulnerabilities. So there are for sure lists of vulnerabilities. They're called CVE, commonly known vulnerabilities exploits, and still 80% of the pages have some of these vulnerabilities without having fixed them. There is particular risk for small and medium enterprises. It's well known, let's say, gap that in these segments, the entities, because the vulnerabilities are known, they are aware of that, but they don't have the technical possibilities. They don't have the budget to really fix these vulnerabilities state of the art. And that is for sure a great chance for any back actors to attack these websites. It's these vulnerabilities, and in particular the JavaScript abuse that is a well-known and a commonly known vulnerability nowadays. There are various authorities and agencies who have long ago notified and alert people of these threats. The German Federal Security Information Office, they have already in 2015 started to report about JavaScript injection and provided recommendation how to secure websites against third-party JavaScripts. Also the FBI has issued notification and warnings. In the UK, there are lots of public articles in the news how best to protect against these scripts. So these scripts are, or these threats, the JavaScript skimming and abuses, they are well known, and because they are well known, you need to face them and you need to prepare against them. And coming back now to that privacy angle, because we have that, for example, in GDPR Article 32, we have this security obligation to secure personal data state of the art. Once you know, and now everyone knows, that there are certain vulnerabilities, you need to protect your personal data against it. And with, in particular, GDPR, since those high fines have been introduced, 4% of your global turnover, even if you're the local entity who had a data breach, that is pretty scary, and definitely, in addition to any reputational damage, it's definitely a cost factor. And there are, as Eduardo mentioned at the beginning, there are two recently very prominent cases for that JavaScript abuse and scraping. The first one was British Airways, who in 2018 lost over or nearly 400,000 personal data, credit card details, name, and really the payment card details, because of such an attack they were facing. And Eduardo will cover the details later on. And originally, the ICO, the British Data Protection Authority, fined British Airways because they should have known that that vulnerability on their website exists and they hadn't fixed it. So it was not the fact that the data was lost as such. It was really that lack of having appropriate security in place, which caused the fine. The original fine was nearly 400 million pounds due to Corona, COVID, and a couple of other factors. The fine has been reduced to only 20 million. Which is still pretty significant. So Ticketmaster was another case. Eduardo also mentioned that kind of similar attack. Personal data has been stolen from the website out of the browser without Ticketmaster being aware of that. And they should have known that, should have closed the security gap. And because they haven't done that, they have been fined also, again, by the ICO. But there are also many other cases. We've embedded here a link to what's called the GDPR enforcement tracker. So if you're interested in other fines imposed under GDPR, that is where you may want to go and just get a better overview. There are a couple of security incidents or security cases there where an inappropriate state-of-the-art security has been the reason why the entities have been fined. And with that, Eduardo, up to you.
Thanks, Anna. Thank you very much for this great presentation. I will be sharing my screen now. Please confirm that you can see it. Anna?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. So thanks a lot, Anna, for this very concise and interesting presentation. So at the end of the day, we're trying to answer the question, why does this matter? And if you look at this, at an example.com site, for instance, and we will have a concrete example in the next slide, we will see that that site has a couple of JavaScripts embedded, be it first party or third party. And then each of these has its own first and third party, right? So all of these scripts will be doing something in the web page, will make the interaction between your end user and the web page more interesting, more appealing. And obviously they will be accessing some of the data that the customer inserts, some of the PII data that we have been mentioning, and Anna mentioned as well in the previous slides, like addresses, name, and obviously the most critical credit card data. Now, if we look at a particular example, and if we look at the scripts that are at the www.akamai.com webpage, we can build this kind of constellation map that is fascinating and frightening at the same time, because we see how we start from a first step of third and first party scripts. Again, first party scripts are developed in-house by your team. They are pushed to your web page. They are somehow then eventually gone under code quality control. Third party scripts are the ones that are developed by the agencies you work with, be it Google Analytics, be it other types of customer insight scripts that you might embed for visibility, social links, and so on. So you can easily see how from a small set of scripts that are loading in your page, each of them has its own first and third party providers, and how things scale to a point where eventually things become unmanageable, right? It even reminds me of these constellations maps, so to speak. We can also see, for instance, taking the example of Akamai.com, that the vast majority of scripts are third party, more than 68%. And this can also be where we lose control, right? Where because these scripts are embedded directly to our page, our developers and our quality control mechanism might not really have the same kind of visibility as towards the code that is developed in-house. And that's how things can happen. If we think about the British Airways case, it was a first-party script that was kind of tampered with. Ticketmaster, on the other hand, was a third-party script. Being a third-party script used by different entities, it was, of course, deployed then at more pages and more services, not only at Ticketmaster, but obviously Ticketmaster was the biggest customer of that third-party provider. So how does this work? The attack or the code is delivered by infiltrating the supply chain of the scripts loaded by end users, again, being first or third-party scripts, right? So the attack can be towards your own infrastructure, like in the case of British Airways, where the attackers gain access to your servers, insert code, and we will look at an example shortly, or the attack can be targeted towards a third-party provider out of your radar, and obviously then when that code that we will look within in the next couple of slides is inserted, you really don't have visibility into this behavioral change. And then obviously credit cards and other data can be skimmed during the payment or the checkout flow of the booking process. And the stolen credit card information is then sent back towards servers that are hosted and controlled by the attackers. Having a look at this from another perspective, the malicious code is injected into trusted sources. Again, be it first-party scripts or third-party, these are all inserted into your web page. The scripts are run by the browser as the user interacts with your web page, and obviously then the personal data, the credit card, the PII data that is so much under scope and under surveillance by GDPR is being skimmed, sent back to adversaries, to attackers, which then will collect it, reuse it, or resell it for their own purposes, right? This is actually constantly changing. The attackers are evolving. They're getting more and more creative. We'll look at an example shortly to see how things are done in a way to bypass our even the more attentive eye. And we're at the beginning of this, therefore we need tools that actually protect us from such type of attacks. So if you look at a concrete example, we have a script here that has been tampered with. Highlighted in blue is the code that has been inserted by the attacker. We can see there is some kind of basic obfuscation, base 64 obfuscation, but highlighted in blue is the code that has been inserted by the skimmer. This is running in the script, be it first or third party. In this case, it doesn't really matter. And if you look at it and apply some kind of basic decoding, you will see that a domain is being called and being sent a post request to. To the more attentive eye, you might even think this is a Google Analytics domain, so it's everything okay because I'm using Google Analytics scripts in my page. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice that it's not really Google Analytics. There's one character there extra that changes the whole thing. So that's a whole different domain hosted not by Google, but by an attacker. It's very fascinating how this is done in a way to even bypass the more attentive eye and become eventually unnoticeable. If we then kind of decode the URL to which we're posting that data to, we can see the kind of data that is being passed with this image ID query string, right? So we have login data, the register, the context, the shipping, the country, the credit card, and so on. So coming again into the beginning, an attack happens by having a skimmer inserting their code into the page, applying some kind of obfuscations to not be so explicit. There are even scripts that detect that if you have the developer tabs open in your browser, that post request to the domain won't happen. Upon applying some simple decoding, we can see that the domain that the data is being sent to is not really the domain we're expecting, and even though it might resemble. And then if we further look into the URL that is being, content is being sent to, we can see the kind of data that is being skimmed and that is being stolen from our customers. Again, this is a token of trust from your end users, and you don't really want to have this being accessed by people that shouldn't access it, right? So the question is, how can we stop this? There are a number of couple of tools that are available now that can be used for preventing this kind of attacks. We will go through both of them, explain how they work and their shortcomings and why we need a new approach, right? So the first one is content security policy, which is a standard introduced in 2004 to try to and stop cross-site scripting. So how does this work? You basically send an additional HTTP header downwards towards your end user, towards the browser. The header is simply named content security policy. and it lists the required values to fully control the resources that the user can load and the browser. The issue here is that you really have to have a very well-crafted policy to make content security policy work effectively, meaning every time you add a new script, you have to add the domain that, add a third-party script, you have to add the domain that script is being loaded from to your content security policy. So it implies a lot of constant maintenance, as we can see here. The problem also is that when you whitelist a domain from which you're loading a third-party script, you're kind of whitelisting everything behind it. Even though many times you can avoid using a wildcard, you can still think that everything behind that domain that you're specifically whitelisting in your content security policy, everything that comes from that domain will be allowed to run in your page, and that can obviously create a number of issues. Again, I mentioned that you need constant maintenance because you can add new scripts before updating the content security policy. And if this happens, the new scripts that your marketing team or your developer team is relying on to make your page look cooler and then the interaction with your end user more appealing, those scripts might be blocked, breaking the site's functionality, right? So here, in particular, there's a constant maintenance of your CSP policy, and obviously we can also lead to false positives as you whitelist things that then might be compromised, and content security policy won't stop that until you actually see what happened and block that domain. The other possibility we have at hand is called sub-resource integrity. It allows browsers to verify that the resources they are loading have been not manipulated and tampered with. So you provide a cryptographic hash that the JavaScript might has to match to, right? So you can simply create an hash using a simple command line OpenSSL command. And what you do when you insert that script, you insert the integrity hash. Should that script be tampered with, obviously the hash won't match, and that script will be prevented from loading and will be blocked. This seems very appealing and the right way to go to, but there are a number of issues here, right? So if you're working with a lot of third-party providers, and most likely you will, if you look at Akamai's own webpage, 68% of the scripts were third-party. You will have to ask those third-party providers to give you that hash, and many times they won't, or it's not so easy to obtain. So this might not really work as effectively as one would expect. Obviously, if scripts change frequently and if they are somewhat dynamic, the hash won't match. So this will easily break your site's functionality, and that's actually the shortcoming of this approach, right? So this leads us to the point where we realize we need a new approach, a smarter way of doing things. We have CSP and SRI at our availability. They were crafted with other use case in mind, mostly to prevent cross-site scripting. But at the end of the day, they're not really built for this tool, for this problem that we have at hand. So we need a new approach. And with Page Integrity Manager, we try to answer three main questions. Where did the script come from, right? And we will then use data analysis to identify suspicious or malicious behavior from that script. We will need to look into the execution behavior to understand what does the script do, right? And above all, a very critical aspect, if you look into the example that I provided a few slides ago, is where does the script send that data to, right? So these are the three main questions that we try to answer with with the Page Integrity Manager. And we obviously, accessing more than 30 or 40% of the global internet traffic, we have a lot of data and threat intelligence to look at. And we can identify suspicious and malicious behavior. Again, to each script, we can, like Anna mentioned, and very well, we can identify known vulnerabilities, the so famous CVEs, and inform you that your script has a common vulnerability exploited in the code that you should probably have a look at. And also you can have a policy that enforces and blocks access to the data, and we will see in the next slides how this can be done. So page integrity will basically, again, inject a script that will be executed prior to all the other ones that are in your page. And again, checking these three things: where is the script coming from? What does it do? And in this sense, we send beacons to the Page Integrity Manager Detection Cloud to analyze the behavior, to detect suspicious behavior that the script might have, or known behaviors that we have seen in the past from similar attacks. And of course, where is the script sending that data to, right? To which domains? In the case of the British Airways, the scheme data was sent to a domain called ba.com. If you look at it, maybe it was a British Airways domain, but it wasn't. It was hosted by the attacker. So we need to see where the script is sending the data to. Obviously, then we will have beacons being sent across your page, and obviously this will be then fed to the Page Integrity Manager Detection Cloud that will record events. This is all being reported to the console, which we will see in the next slide. And from the console, you can allow or deny outbound traffic, right? In the case you see a domain that you do not expect data to be sent to, you can simply block it from the interface, which is a great way of securing your customers' data. So when you press that deny button in the console, the destination is blocked, the data is not sent to that remote URL, and you kind of prevented an attack. This is basically what you would get with Page Integrity Manager, an overview on the total number of scripts that have been analyzed. Again, the beacons, you can define the percentage of your users to which your Page Integrity Manager policy is applied to. You see the first and third party scripts, and also you see the number of vulnerabilities associated to your JavaScript resources. You get a very nice classification of data of the severity of the incidents, which allows your security team to prioritize the issues that they want to work on, right? And then you can also see the user location by country area. So this is an overview. You can then also go into a script group in particular. You will see the behavior activity, which is very nice. You can see when has this group of scripts been monitoring credit card data, which is very critical, or when they have been monitoring PII data, like name, address, and so on. As mentioned, a very important part is the detection of CVEs. You will see the vulnerabilities from those scripts mentioned in the dashboard. You have a lot of documentation available, GitHub links and SNCC, the open source security leading company. And from there you can get more information. And you also then have a domain reputation scoring associated to the domain that data is being sent to. You have the name of the vendor that allows you to topologies to track it down and get in direct contact with them. You will see the suspicious, when you drill down into an event group, you will see what has happened, the kind of data that has been accessed here, and the severity, right? As I mentioned in the previous slide, you can, from this interface, deny the outbound traffic, deny the access to the sensitive data, or ignore, right? So this is where your policy becomes actually active, and you can, on the fly, block attacks. And last but not least, you will see the method. It's a third-party script, the file, the domain reputation, the recommendation provided by PIM. Please deny access to the sensitive data. And you'll see the anomalies chart, but you also see a script behavior chain. When you read from the sensitive data, which kind of data, when it sends outbound traffic with the data, and so on. So from here, you get a complete overview of the attack as it happened. To kind of conclude, you know, what we aim at providing you with Page Integrity Manager is an inventory of all the scripts running on your page, be it first and third party. Many times, as I've been doing a few POCs, some of my prospects are surprised by the vast amount of scripts that they have running on their web page, first and third party. So we recognize all scripts and associated CVEs on your website. We will categorize, and you can also categorize those scripts in good and bad, blocking the bad ones and allowing the good ones. Obviously, being exposed to so much traffic, we can assist you with the categorization, and we can associate a domain reputation to each of the domains that scripts are sending data to, which is a critical aspect in my humble opinion, and you can block bad scripts, right? So data exfiltration is prevented with a state-of-the-art tool, and above all, your customer data is secured and protected. So we will prevent block data skimming and harvesting attacks. We will also prevent accidental exfil of customers' PII data. So vendors that will accidentally collect users' data and somehow leak it. We will block or alert you about low reputation or risky domains that access your website vulnerability, your website environment, and we will identify scripts with known vulnerabilities so that you can mitigate them before adversaries exploit such vulnerabilities. Before passing back to Anna, I would just like to give a final tip in a way. If you're on Akamai, you can define your content security policy by adding the modify outgoing response header. You can insert an header name and value. The value will obviously be your content security policy. You can use Akamai variables to build the CSP based on data incoming from the user requests. And on Corner Site Defender, Akamai's own WAF, there is a rule that allows you to generate reports every time the content security policy is being violated. This allows then those reports to be sent to an endpoint, which then will be reflected in your security center, when you can then inspect all the incidents and see which host name, which method, obviously mostly a post, and which kind of data was then being exfiltrated. So Anna, I probably would continue with the slide deck myself, and you know, if you'd like to talk about the final words about PIM.
Sure. So not only does the service as such is designed or ensures that your website meets the privacy by design principle, but the service as such also meets the privacy by design principle, because we for sure took care that the service as such and its underlying processing activities comply with the data protection or privacy principles. So the JavaScript that is used to detect the JavaScript on your websites, that is performed for security purpose. You don't need to, you need to add it to your cookie list, but you do not need to provide any opt-out or choices to the end users, because it's for security purposes, and those purposes are essential for the functioning of the website. Otherwise, your data will be might be exfiltrated in case the scripts are skimmed, and you get a data breach. For sure, the JavaScript only collects the absolute necessary data, so we meet that data minimization principle. The data is deleted once not required anymore. We have the appropriate security to ensure that the data collected by the JavaScript and the system the data is analyzed on are appropriately secured against any third-party access. And it's really, as Eduardo outlined, it's really you being able via our portal to really determine the settings and to really configure the services and really to react and to new threats, to new vulnerabilities, and to really ensure the state-of-the-art security as you wish to do it. So that really gives you control over the data and over the JavaScript. So with that, I think we're at the end. Yeah, as kind of a summary, what we would like to do is really just once again make you aware that PIM not only covers the first but also the third-party scripts. It might be worth, or you might find that presentation interesting, and you might think about potential JavaScript exposure on your website. So maybe that's a good opportunity to start a talk with your security team and your privacy team. And what we also do offer is a free trial. We have embedded that link there. If you want to test it, you're very welcome to do that. And I think with that, we are starting the Q&A session. Torsten, I guess you're still on mute.
Yes. Torsten, you're muted, yeah.
That's the technical challenges we're facing always. I guess we lost Torsten's audio.
No, he's with the audio on, but microphone is somewhat not...
The microphone isn't working. That's the good thing about all this digital world we're living in right now. There's always one technical issue. Either the deck is not running or the audio is fading at inappropriate time. Well, that's it.
It happens. Live demos, like we usually say, right?
Oh, so is it working now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, you know, this happens, and this everybody knows that. It's not only that we run unbelievably lots third-party scripts on our websites. We run with indefinitely many microphones on our computer systems these days. One question, and which I will want to ask first, and please, audience, if you have any question, put them in the chat or in the Q&A section. I mean, we all know that this has been happening for the last 3 to 5 years with the mage card attacks and so on. It still seems to be that most customers are not aware of that. Anna, what is your opinion about that? Why are people, you know, GDPR is in there and the attacks are there. Why people still don't know?
I think there are two kinds of, let's say, causes for that. One group definitely is aware of that, but as I outlined at the beginning, small and medium enterprises, they might not have the botnet, they don't have the IT resources, they might not know what or third-party services like Akamai are available. And then it's also kind of that, let's say, human laziness, where you say, oh, my services are not really exposed, and I hadn't had an attack at all. Why should anyone be looking into my data? And kind of, hoping that nothing happens.
So you would say that people are not aware of their risks in one way. They might be, but it's not that bad. And as long as we're not caught, it's not that bad. Eduardo, well, what did you say? I mean, you're talking to quite a bit of enterprises out there. What do you think? What are the reasons? Is it that data privacy officers and security officers don't talk with each other? Or what is the issue from your side?
It could be. I think at the end of the day, sometimes we have to evangelize a bit and make people aware of this issue, even though it's been in the news quite recently. And for instance, for British Airways, the timing of the fine couldn't have been worse, because then came the pandemic and the world stopped. And for British Airways, business went really down, and then came the fine. So there's awareness, but I think at the end of the day, if it's not really hitting your backend servers and you don't notice an increase of load in your servers, it might go under the radar somewhat. But I do notice a lot of more awareness and willingness, and in fact, a lot of companies jumping on board with BIM as well to address this issue and to properly mitigate eventual attacks. I always get a very good feedback from this kind of inventory that you get, and the surprise in how many scripts are hosted on the website, be it first and third party. So I think the awareness is growing, but there's still a lot to do, like in every security topic out there.
I think that therefore really that, as you mentioned, that dashboard in our portal assist, so that you get probably for most of the people involved for the first time, really an overview what you have on your website. And then you can only assess the risk. Before that, you think, oh, I have a couple of third-party scripts. Yeah, should be fine. They are well-known parties. They will ensure the security of their scripts their own. So nothing I need to bother about.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, there's this free tier that Akamai provides. I would recommend everyone to activate it and have a look at what's there. More information is always good, and above all, awareness and visibility. Also, to show to the authorities that you're taking proper measures to secure the data that is being sent to you by your end customers.
One more question, Anna. You're discussing DPAs with quite a bit of companies globally, I would say. And in this discussion about closing DPAs and talking about GDPR compliance, are security officers involved at all, or is it mostly that legal talks to legal and the security people talk to the product people and to the production people? Or is that something which now starts that privacy officers and security officers talk more often?
It starts. I think the usual answer of a lawyer is it depends. So again, it depends really on the, let's say, maturity of the enterprise, the customer, whether they know that privacy and security needs to go hand in hand, that they need to involve their product specialists to really understand where the risk for their website and their services are. And I think only then you can put in place the appropriate security. So really, we have intensive discussion, and it really is growing a number of customers who loop in really for the very first call, not just the, let's say, special matter product expert, but also to have their privacy and their security team in place. Because in particular, these where privacy ensures the state-of-the-art security, that is where the security needs to be part of the discussion.
And same question to Eduardo, as you're more on the practical side and putting security measures in place, helping customers to mitigate any kind of attack vectors. Is the privacy officer in your practical work included, or is it more theoretical things?
As you know, I'm more working directly with the security teams of our customers, but I know they are directed by the DPO and by the CISO to have a look at this, and that that management level expects a feedback and action rather soon. When we, in all POCs that we have gone to, we monitored, we saw the scripts, we made an inventory. You can generate great reports from all the dashboards that PIM provides, and basically download them and show them directly to your CISO or DPO. And from there you can, above all, tell internally that you have the power to take actions and control those scripts, and you can see what they're doing and what they're accessing to. So they're involved in a way, and they're also bringing forward this topic, I think.
So what we're doing right now is what I see is we are evangelizing this whole topic, which has to be evangelized a little bit more. We could build a church, but now we're GlobalDots and Akamai, and I think this could be a good start. And I think we should probably, Anna and Eduardo, I would love to do that again in maybe half a year, whatever, to see. What are the results? How's the adoption rate? Because this is what I'm seeing a little bit. And as people know me, I'm a sales guy, so I want to sell that. And I think this is, it should be easy for people to understand. And it's not the most expensive way, that it's more than an insurance, that this is targeted towards the personal data of your customers mostly. What would you say, Anna? What kind of, where else should there be boards, governing boards telling people to use that more? Or what is your suggestion to promote that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps to really loop in. In my view, this is still considered pretty much a security issue, potentially security grab, and the privacy team in many cases have been kind of kept out of that discussion. Kind of, oh, that is security, we take care of it. Who needs to involve an additional layer of compliance, of checks, of balances, of discussions? We just want to put the security checks in place. But in looping in the privacy team definitely helps, and wherever you can promote it. I mean, whether it's just talking to your privacy and the security team to do the events like we are doing today, definitely that helps. And I think that that whole thinking of privacy by design, ensuring that whatever you have, services, products, just web pages where you provide information, that can only be ensured once privacy and security team works together. So yeah, whatever you can do, promotion helps.
Thank you. So any more questions from the audience? If not, I would conclude, and I would say a big thank you. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you so much, Eduardo. It was, as always, an enlightening webinar, and I think we will promote this quite a bit on YouTube. We will send the recording of this to everyone who attended, and we will market that. So thank you very much, everybody. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure.